Okay. All right. Well, I guess I'm kicking this off, the science panel off. My name is Maryam Zaringhalam, and I am a molecular biologist at the Rockefeller University, which is a biomedical research institution on the Upper East Side. And I am here representing Rockefeller's Women in Science group. We are called WISER, which stands for Women in Science at Rockefeller University. Very creative. And I, as a woman in science, I just recently finished my PhD. The biggest challenge, thank you, the biggest challenge that I have found navigating the women in science space is really a representation issue. So at my own research institution, we have 72 faculty, but only 8 of them when I started are actually women. And so when you're thinking about how do I ascend this pipeline or this ladder towards becoming an academic, it's very hard to imagine yourself if you don't actually have human women in front of you that are in the places that you are looking to go. And so one way to increase representation is to take advantage of Wikipedia, to give this a plug. And so I have been working with Wikipedia to organize an edit-a-thon around increasing representation for women in science. Because if you look at really high-achieving women, so how many of you have heard of CRISPR, this gene editing technology? Yeah, so there's 4 people that are behind this, that are given credit for discovering this, 2 women against 2 men. And so if you look at the 2 men's Wikipedias, Feng Zhang and George Church, they're quite beefed up. But if you look by comparison at Jennifer Doudna or Emmanuelle Charpentier's Wikipedia pages, they're much more sparse. And so we wanted to bring together a bunch of women in science around New York City to really contribute to existing sparsely populated Wikipedia pages and also to create new ones. And so in the preparation stages, this is going to be an event in March. We're going to have pizza and beer and kind of create a community around editing together. And I've already started crowdsourcing admirable women in science and on a Google Doc. And so far we are up to 82 women, which is really amazing. And many of them are women that I have never heard of before, but just doing preliminary Google or PubMed, which is our journal, all of the scientific articles, have done really, really incredible work. And so I'm very excited to be working with Wikipedia on this project that is already contributing a lot to broadening my own horizons. So yeah, I think it's my time.
Hello everyone, I am Samantha from the New York Botanical Gardens. I'm the reference librarian there, and next to me is my colleague Esther Jackson. She is the public services librarian there. And for those of you who don't know, the New York Botanical Gardens is up in the Bronx. We are the largest botanical and horticultural library currently in the world. We carry 1.5 million items, not including the archives, the photo vault, and the herbarium. The herbarium is its own monstrosity, carrying about 7 million items. Herbariums, for those of you who don't know, are dried plant specimens. And so in June, well, before June, Esther and I are quite new to Wikipedia editing, and in June we hosted an event that would highlight the largest, well, New York State botanists with the largest, about the largest collections of plants. And the way we did that was we went through our database, which is our EMU database, and we saw what we had in our collections and other herbarias. So,
about that event.
Oh no, okay, so that's how we found out who we were working with, the names that we came up with. Through that, we went through our collections in the library and we saw what biographical materials we had for each New York State botanist. With that being said, each botanist came with its own set of challenges. We had a lot of information for one person and then very little for the next. So we had to be really creative in what sort of resources we were going to use. And our library is very unique in the sense that we have this vertical file collection. The vertical files is basically cabinet folders of random ephemera, and it's a mix of primary sources and secondary sources. So it's not necessarily archival material, but it could be anything from brochures, maps, photographs, correspondence, journal articles. So this is what we primarily worked with, in addition to a lot of reference materials. Starting off as new editors, we came across a few challenges within the science world, and Esther could speak more about that.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? No? Closer. Oh, hi. So as Samantha said, we kind of approached science on Wikipedia from a biographical standpoint. And that was partially because we felt that that was an accessible way for members of the public who didn't necessarily have a scientific background to access scientific ideas in a way that they weren't, super intimidated. They could talk about the research that somebody did, the significant work that this person had contributed to the scientific community, but they themselves didn't necessarily have to have the highest level of understanding of, let's say, molecular biology. And so the first editathon we did, we started to sort of scratch the surface of Wikipedia and science and what it means and what the challenges are associated with that. And like anything in Wikipedia, science itself is really segmented. So there's a lot of diverse values that different domains will have. The resources that they value are different. The objectives of the disciplines are different. And so how do we, as editors, kind of take into account the fact that the populations, in this case the scientific community, that we're serving are themselves really diverse? So, like I said, a way that we did that was through biographical entries, because they had an accessibility to them that was palatable for a general audience. Piggybacking on that is, again, the concern of having quality entries and edits made to Wikipedia by experts within domains, including scientific domains. And a challenge that we've seen is, people who are professional botanists or scientists in other fields are not always willing to volunteer their time and their expertise creating information for the greater good when they can be paid to create this information. So we've been trying to approach people in a way that sort of like takes into account individual egos, but also promotes the fact that the content that we're creating and that we're presenting is a way for them to bring their research out to a broader audience. So that's been one of the challenges that we faced with the past event that we organized, and then also our upcoming event, which is focused on female scientists, so women in science is a popular theme. And Samantha's going to talk a little bit about the challenges around that theme, women in science, specifically female ethnobotanists, taxonomists, and plant collectors.
So a couple of months ago, we were talking to our colleagues at the Council of Botanical and Horticultural Libraries, and we decided that we were going to do Plants and People Wikipedia Editathon series, which is a week-long series. Esther and I had great success in our last editathon, primarily focusing on biographies, but this time we decided to focus more on women, so women horticulturists, women taxonomists, women botanists, and women plant collectors. We didn't realize how underrepresented they were within our own collections. We just kind of thought we'd find it as we went. But as we went, it became more of a challenge to find enough material to create a solid narrative for a solid page, editing a page, or even contributing to an existing page. So it's a challenge because a lot of the materials don't exist, but also them changing their last names from their maiden name to their now married name. It's hard to make that connection if you don't have connected records already. So if you don't have biographical information that that person is then married and had changed her name, there's no way of finding the person. So the vertical files I mentioned that we're working with, they're not electronic records. We have to go manually in the back and dig through these records. So that has been a huge challenge in this upcoming event. And we've been falling back on JSTOR Global Plant Biographies, as well as BHL, the Biodiversity Heritage Library resources. And so this upcoming event is more focused on the electronic resources that we link to each page and link to each person. And with that, adding JSTOR and BHL and being able to link to those, we feel it makes the pages that are created and edited a little more authoritative. A lot more authoritative. Though we wish we had more of the physical hands-on records, we're trying our best to include electronic resources as well. Anything to add?
No, I would just say editing Wikipedia for the sciences is obviously challenging, as is editing Wikipedia in any specialized domain, but if you have an interest in it, jump in, just start doing it, and we're really happy to speak with anybody who has an interest in this area, and we're really, really excited to talk to those of you who are already editing science articles on Wikipedia as well.
So our event is sold out. We reached our maximum. We had to cap the audience, which is phenomenal. We're super excited to see that happening on June 25th. But in the future, if you want to, January. June 25th was the last event. January 25th, we're really excited to see the turnout. So look for future events because we're really happy to be hosting these. In addition, we've had so much support from other librarians, from other communities, from other editors, from experts. If you don't know, ask. They are so excited to help you. So that's all we have.
Thanks. So my name is Ryan McGrady. I work with the Wiki Education Foundation, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the Wikipedia Year of Science. Just a bit of informal audience research for our outreach. How many people have heard of the Wikipedia Year of Science by show of hands? All right, okay. So basically, Wikipedia is where people go when they want to know about science. I mean, about anything really, but about science. When you hear some bit of jargon, if you want to check out which is the longest snake in the world, or if you want some information about a particular chemical, the Wikipedia is very commonly people's first stop. It's also one of the, not only the most popular source of information for this sort of thing, but it's also the biggest one that's publicly accessible, which is a big deal. So it's really important that science be represented accurately and to have a breadth and depth of coverage of scientific concept. But as we know, Wikipedia articles are sort of, they vary with the amount of quality and coverage. Some things are out of date, some things are too technical, some things are completely omitted. We've already heard about some areas where Wikipedia is lacking. Women are underrepresented. Research from areas that are not part of the English-speaking world is less well represented. So it's something that we want to tackle. And so how do we tackle that? Well, we started this campaign where we work with people in academia and Wikipedia to connect them in order to, on one hand, improve science communication through Wikipedia, and on the other hand, educate science communicators or students who are training to be science communicators. So it's a really big opportunity for students, and they actually make a pretty good editor for this sort of topic for a number of reasons. For example, students are they're learning the jargon, but they're not so far removed from a point when they don't know the jargon to take for granted that other people don't. So they can write for a general audience. They also have, through our programs and through their instructor, access to editing materials and staff support and somebody to guide them through in order to make sure they get it right. So the Year of Science was a way to basically just to unite those two goals of educating science communicators and engaging in that science communication with the public. And at the end of it, I have some numbers here. So there were 287 courses in the United States and Canada participating in the program, with over 6,000 students, just under 5 million words added to Wikipedia, 5,600 articles, 270 million page views. And one of the specific goals that we had was to improve coverage of women scientists. Students wrote about 100 articles on women scientists, and through a collaboration with Wiki project Women in Red, which for those of you who haven't heard of this wonderful project, it's a Wiki project. It's much more than a Wiki project, intended to turn red link women's names into blue links in order to create biographies of women. And they created another approximately 100 articles about women scientists for the Year of Science. So it's something that we were very proud of and very enthusiastic about. We broke all sorts of personal, organizational records in pushing for this. We had some great partners with the Simons Foundation, and Google supported this. Lane had asked if I would speak on this today as a sort of model of a campaign, of an outreach campaign for science on Wikipedia. And I would love it if people decided to pick it up and continue that motivation reaching across academia, Wikipedia, other nonprofits, and academic associations. So I'll just leave it at that. I think we have 10 minutes for questions.
Questions from anyone about Wikipedia and science? I've got a microphone for you.
I might have one.
Hi. I might have one. This isn't specific to women in sciences, but about science in Wikipedia. I know there's a lot of difficulty that many scientists are having with copyright, journals, articles behind paywalls. I'm just curious if that's something they've clashed into very many times, if you think that's something that's gotten better, worse, inhibited your work, or maybe that's, I don't know. Who cares?
Can I ask for a clarification? Are you asking if scientists have better access now to scholarly literature, or if Wikipedia is able to? Oh, for Wikipedia editing, specifically?
Well, it's certainly an issue for your normal editor, because I mean, a lot of Wikipedia editors, I dare say most, are not scientists or academics, and yet they are interested in science. And one of the great things about Wikipedia is you don't have to be a professional in a given field in order to make significant contributions to an article about that subject. So it is an issue. There are some great initiatives through a part of the WMF, the Wikipedia Library, which tries to get journal access and database access into the hands of Wikipedians who need them. There's also a Visiting Scholars program which connects academia and Wikipedians in order to give them a login to a university library in order to bridge that gap.
I'll also just say that for our event at Rockefeller, it was important. We were thinking about doing it in other places because Rockefeller is geographically not the most accessible. But because we have all of these subscriptions to any journal that you can possibly imagine, we thought it would be great to bring people to us so that they can access all of these really great resources that we have, and pair them with scientists that can kind of sift through the jargon if need be.
In terms of notability, is there science that is non-notable, or is all science notable?
That's a good question. It's probably a matter of debate amongst science professionals themselves. So, for example, in botany, people who are maybe taxonomists, so people who will describe organisms, talk about the relationship that different plants have to one another, they might see less value and potentially something that's more anthropology-based. So ethnobotany focuses on the interaction of, can focus on the way that people use plants. And that can mean that people who are working within ethnobotany may be more interested in the people than in the organisms themselves. So the long answer is for us, we definitely try not to make a distinction between which domain would be like more scientific than another, but within scientific communities themselves, there's absolutely biases dependent on the individual and sometimes dependent on the communities that they're working within.
Hi, I'm Noreen Weisel. I had a question about developing an outreach program with academic associations. What kind of materials, formal or informal, do you have developed that we can use as a guideline or as a way to kind of create a roadmap for outreach?
So materials, so for the Year of Science in particular, which just came to an end, we did an awful lot of conference outreach with the Simons Foundation we would run edit-a-thon events. Lane went to several of them. But as far as materials, so we partner with any academic association interested in having students work on Wikipedia, not just in the sciences. And we have developed some materials specifically for those partnerships. So it sort of depends on what kind of engagement the association is looking to, whether it's to have an event or to just encourage instructors to teach with students, or in some other way. I mean, that's at least for the WikiEd side of things. Okay, sorry.
I'll say as well, concerning outreach to science professionals, for our upcoming edit-a-thon focused on female botanists, I contacted a lot of female scientists directly, and I found that that was a really great way to build engagement and to increase interest. And I could, although we don't work with students, I could see that as being a really potentially useful task for a student to contact scientists themselves, because the amount of buy-in I think that develops between both sides of that, interaction is really, really valuable.
And I guess I'll just chime in as a scientist. We love email. We respond to email all the time, so feel free to email me or any scientist that you come across their research page and you like them. We're always happy to talk to anybody.
I had a question. How long do you think approximately is it going to take? Thanks. Yeah, how long do you think is it going to take, let's say 2 years or 5 years, for those things to become more equal or approximately equal? Just any estimation you can come up with.
No?
Yeah.
I don't know where we are now.
I can say that the way that in the sciences we gauge any project is to take the number of say it's days. If you say it's 5 days, double it, so it's 10, and then change days to weeks. Probably longer than it should. But yeah.
So I can't really give you an exact answer to that, but as I'm going through the materials, since I'm coordinating all the resources for our events, as I'm going through the materials, when I think I have a list, of women, I just come across more and more and more, and then my list grows longer and longer and longer. So what turns out to be a one-day event might potentially be a reoccurring event, might be a week-long event. We just keep finding more things. So I'm uncertain myself. As I go through the materials, more just pop up.
And I'll say as well, I don't have numbers about what the representation is between men and women now, so that's why it's kind of challenging to answer. But as a lot of other editors I think would say, it really has to do with having people who are passionate about the information, and they're passionate about making these women and their work accessible to the public. So the more buy-in that we have as a community from people who are willing to do that work, the faster it'll go.
And I've also started trying to coordinate with women in science groups at other universities, because if we can just have one group creating Wikipedia entries for all of the female faculty in the sciences, then I think this could go a lot faster, because we know what women are currently at universities. Oh, sorry.
Another question, more general to the academia world. A lot of institutions don't allow Wikipedia as a source. Is that something that's going to be changing possibly in the future? Is that the direction Wikipedia should be going?
So as a librarian and as both employees of a library, this is our main goal, is to create reliable sources within Wikipedia for Wikipedia to be accessible to students and be able to be used in an academic institution. Libraries hold phenomenal resources, and with those resources being used to create Wikipedia pages, those citations at the bottom are very crucial, and they should be seen as very authoritative. So that's personally what we are trying to accomplish as librarians.
And I'll also say that in libraries, specifically, the Association of College and Research Libraries has put out an information literacy framework that stresses educating students so that they're able to find value in different information resources, regardless of whether or not maybe they're more traditional, so like a newspaper versus like a oral history from somebody who lived through an armed conflict, let's say. So at least within the library community, there's definitely a stress, like people are stressing that lots of different types of information have value, but they have to be understood in order to be used properly. And Wikipedia definitely falls into that, I think.
Just to tag on that real quick, the thing that we usually tell instructors is that Wikipedia, the ideal is for it to be a perfect first stop for information. And that it usually, if it's for a really serious purpose, it should probably be the gateway to the reliable sources that are in the citations. So source for research papers, for example, valuable resource for it, if not a source itself.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.